Hey, it's Chris Doucher for GeekNerdNet.com. I'm at the 2023 Edmonton Expo. I'm really pleased and happy to be sitting beside cartoonist Joe Wos. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. You've got Cartoon Academy on PBS. You've got MazeToons, and you also, I'm missing stuff, I know, but you also are the artist and integrity...
I am the brand character integrity consultant for Starkist and Charlie the Tuna.
Thank you. That was more than a mouthful than I could have done. I felt like I had a can of tuna in my mouth when I said it. So, hey, Joe, great to meet you. I love coming to these shows because I meet folks from all over the place, and I've heard great things about you from many people, and obviously we met the other day. But talk to me about, we'll get to Charlie in a bit. Talk to me about your work. Your show is filmed in the same studio, if I remember correctly, as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it is, and it's interesting because it really comes sort of full circle for me. As a kid in high school, my best friend's dad was the lead cameraman on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and they invited me. They said, "Would you like to come? We're going to do a family picnic for WQED, and Mr. Rogers is going to be there. Would you like to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And I was about 14 years old. And I had spiked orange hair, pierced ears, jean jacket covered in safety pins, combat boots. I was a punk rock kid.
Nice.
And they took me to the family picnic, and they said, "Do you want to meet Fred?" And I said, "Oh, of course." Even teenagers in Pittsburgh, love Mr. Rogers. Yeah. So my friend Rob introduced me, said, "This is my friend Joe." Mr. Rogers took one look at me and said, "You're an artist, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." We talked for a bit, and then decades later, he came to see one of my performances. I do a show where I draw stories as I tell them at the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh. And a mutual friend, David Newell, who plays Mr. McFeely, said, "Fred would like to meet you." And I said, "Yeah, definitely. I'd love to." So Fred Rogers come back, and I shake his hand and meet him, and he goes, "It's such a delight to meet you, and I really enjoy the work you're doing." And I said, "Oh, it's great to meet you too, but this isn't the first time we've met. When I was 14, I had spiked orange hair and pierced earrings and combat boots, and you looked at me and said, 'You're an artist, aren't you?'" And Fred Rogers looked at me and said, "Well, I was right, wasn't I?" And so he wrote a lovely letter afterwards saying how important the work I was doing with kids was and how much he enjoyed the show. And
wow.
So being able to film in that studio really is just sort of connects me. It's just sort of such a good feeling, as Fred would say.
That's amazing. I love that. I loved Mr. Rogers, and who didn't? And we talked about it the other night. And then growing up in Canada, on CBC we had Mr. Dress Up, Ernie Coombs, and in fact Fred Rogers did his first start on CBC in Canada, and then he told Ernie, "Hey, do a show here," and then he, Mr. Dress Up's an icon, and it's just like everything else.
Yeah. That's one of the nice things was it was a different era where they didn't view it as competition. They really viewed it as being on mission, that we need to reach as many children with positive messages as we can. So there was none of that, "Don't do that, I'll sue you." It was "Oh my goodness, please. Yeah. You reach the children in Canada, I'll take care of the kids in the U.S., and maybe we can make a difference."
Yeah, and and that's the thing. Like, look at us, right? I love the connections those shows have, and we're talking about it's an instant connection where you're like, yes, okay, yeah, you're kind of my people, and we all get this, right? And it is that good feeling. You feel it, like as I'm talking about it right now. It sounds cheesy, but it's true, and it's nice to think back to those memories of, like, for me eating like a peanut butter and jam sandwich, watching Mr. Dress Up and Mr. Rogers, and like back to back, right? Yeah. And anyhow, okay. I'm rambling.
No, it's wonderful because I really, being from Pittsburgh, it is truly Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Yeah. And so the word neighbor has a responsibility with it that we all feel as Pittsburghers that we have to represent, Fred. So we're all his neighbors, but we were truly his neighbors. So, it's something we take very seriously.
I love it. Well, we started off talking about the studio. Talk about the Cartoon Academy, and if for those that don't know, just give a bit of a rundown on that.
So the way it's described, and I do love this, although I find it very intimidating because it's quite a high standard, is it's described as Bob Ross meets Mr. Rogers. That it is
No pressure at all.
I know, no pressure at all. Two of my heroes, iconic, and both PBS icons.
Yeah.
It is drawing lessons that are easy to follow using basic letters, numbers, and shapes. It's geared towards, it's all ages, but obviously kids are our main audience, but we have, oh my goodness, it's played in senior citizen centers, and, adults are fans. And, but it has lots of fun little pop-up trivia and some really bad dad jokes. And
I'm a fan of those.
Yeah, it's really the embodiment of everything that I am and that I do.
Yeah. That's great. And how long have you been doing that for?
We just finished taping our 4th season.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we just finished 4th season.
That's awesome. And of course, too, growing up, with just standard cable TV, as we did in the 80s and 90s, right? PBS was on a lot in our house too. Like we got, we had that and get that here in Canada. We get a lot of American stations, but I would watch a lot of those shows too, right? And Bob Ross and Happy Accidents and his just so calm demeanor. But moving on the aspect of art and what you do, talk about MazeToons.
So MazeToons is my syndicated feature. It's distributed by King Features. King Features, of course, distributes Popeye and Mutts and many great classic comics. But MazeToons is sort of a hybrid between cartoons and mazes. So you actually go through the illustration. A lot of mazes, when they have illustration, it's the shape of an object and then the maze is within that. This is actually the illustrations are integrated within the maze. So it makes it very challenging, but a lot more fun to draw.
Nice. It's awesome. And when when you're traveling, you said you've been coming to the Edmonton show, often over the years. Just talk about we talked about connections earlier, right? Talk about those connections you make when you go to different shows and people who either watch your show or, know your work here. Just those kind of connections you make with people.
I'm amazed to this very day, anyone who knows me from anything. Just because I don't think of myself as someone who has a following or that people would watch what I do, and it's maybe it's a certain amount of modesty, but when someone comes up to me and recognizes any of my work or shows up with one of my books or has a clipping from the newspaper or watches the show, I'm just astounded by it. I had a kid show up recently. I was in a town in I think Missouri. And a kid had showed up at my workshop. He had a portfolio of every drawing he had done from watching the show. Wow. So it was like, 30 of these drawings that he had all done, and he watched them over and over until he got better and better. And it was just amazing.
Wow. That's really cool. And that, and you've got, and like you said, like as you're talking about it, I can see the passion in your face and your voice about it. That's got to just feel so, like you said, amazing, right?
Yeah, it really is. I just anytime someone does that little bit of recognition, it's just it is a great feeling.
Yeah.
Because it says I appreciate what you do. It means something to them.
Yeah. And
that's great that you're able to give that gift.
Yeah. And I'm gonna. Excuse me. I'm going to talk about, on the theme of connections. So my day job, I'm a copywriter, like I told you when we met the other night, and all of a sudden worlds collide when you start telling me, not just and everyone around, not just about the work you do, but then Charlie the Tuna, and I jumped out of my chair almost, and I'm like, what? Oh my God! So the ad guy in me, and then the appreciation of that iconic character. Talk about how you got started with Charlie and Circus and go from there.
So when Charlie was approaching his 50th birthday, which is now quite some time ago, they were looking for a way to sort of celebrate it locally in Pittsburgh, where their headquarters was at the time. And lots of museums had ideas and so forth, but I ran a small cartoon museum in Pittsburgh, and I basically researched the entire history of Charlie. I talked to animators who had worked on the show and put together this pitch to them, and they loved it. And they said, look, we don't have anybody who has documented this much information for us. We've kind of lost that history of Charlie. And they said, look, we see you're a cartoonist. Would you consider working with us to sort of protect the character? And that's how I came on as the brand character integrity consultant. That when they do new commercials or they're doing something with Charlie, they say, hey, take a look at this. Is this consistent? Is it going too far? What are your thoughts? And when they do I did the mural at the headquarters when they're doing new, activity sheets or whatever it is that's going to involve Charlie. They'll either have me work on drawing it, or they'll have me sort of take a review of it. But they've been great to work with. They subsidize a lot of my Comic-Con travels and so forth, and it's a really great experience because that's one of the more unique aspects of what I do. But from a fan perspective, it's so fascinating to me the number of legitimate fans, a logo on a can of tuna has. Yeah. Because he's so much more than that. Yeah.
There's some truth in advertising right there, which is true. But I want to ask you, making sure that Charlie is in the right place, the brand, the integrity of it. And have you ever had, excuse me, I'm not sure if you can say or not, but I'm going to ask anyway. Have you ever had, an artist or someone come in and say, and you've really looked at the picture of what they've done with Charlie and thought, man, they're really drawing outside the lines on this one?
No, not really. I think a lot of that, and I don't know for sure, but this is my suspicion, is they became very cautious and protective of Charlie, wisely, after the movie Food Fight came out, which is notoriously one of the worst animated films. No, actually, it's the worst animated film of all time. But they had pitched it that it was going to be for food products what Toy Story was for toys. It bombed tremendously, and had they had me at that time, I would have said, "Yeah, no, don't do this." I looked at the storyboards and said, I would have said no. But I think after that, they really said, "Oh, hey, we've got something here special. Yeah. We need to really make sure it keeps that. It means a lot to a lot of people." I meet fans who are named Charlie, and will say, "You ruined my life." Jokingly, of course, but they're like, "I hear sorry Charlie all the time." Right. They have phrases that have entered the American, and I assume Canadian lexicon of sorry Charlie. Yeah. Tell them Charlie sent you. Yeah. I've met people who have Charlie the Tuna tattoos. And I will have people who show up with the Charlie Funko Pops, which are very popular. Right. And even cans of tuna for me to do a little sketch of Charlie on. So they really know. Starkist, to their credit, I don't know how many companies, if any others, have, an administration staff that cares so much about their mascot that they say, we need someone who can help protect him. Yeah. And they really do. I mean, to give an idea how deep that goes, whenever they hire a new CEO, one of the things they have me do is meet with them to educate them on the history of Charlie. Wow. I don't think there's probably another company in the world that maybe Disney. Yeah. Right. but that's it. I don't know if there's another company that treats their icon with such deep respect.
Yeah, I was going to say, you used the word icon. I was going to say I love the iconic, history really behind it, right? And that's great that they protect it. I love that.
So. Well, and when you really look at Charlie's lineage, from his creation to now, but you have the people who have worked on Charlie is the who's who of animation legend. The first commercials were done by DePatie Freeling, who did the Pink Panther. Chuck Jones was one of the original designers of the animated look. Wow. So you have this incredible people who have worked on this, animators who went on to work for Disney and so forth. Mm-hmm. So it's really quite remarkable of all the people who have worked on Charlie over the years. And, I think the thing that made Charlie really an icon is he came from an era when you could tell stories. Mm-hmm. And character development was important in commercials. Yeah. We don't have that as much anymore, simply because commercials have gotten shorter and shorter. Yeah. But Charlie was able to really develop this message that is one of unwavering hopefulness. Yeah. That despite being faced with rejection over and over and over, that sorry Charlie, Starkist isn't interested. Starkist wants tuna with that tastes great, not tuna with good taste. But he constantly strives to improve himself. He learns how to play the harp. He learns poetry. He learns whatever it is he has to do to find that acceptance. And I think that's the message that connects with people is we're all looking for acceptance.
Yeah.
And that's what Charlie ultimately wants. And only through sort of self-enlightenment and self-improvement can you learn to sort of accept ultimately yourself. And I think that's where Charlie is now. That Charlie is sort of accepted, like, hey, I'm Charlie. I'm a mascot for, they love me.
Yeah.
And I think he's finally accepted that.
Nice. On the that topic of icons, you're working in with the Peanuts Museum, right?
Yes, I've been a visiting cartoonist of the Charles M. Schulz Museum for over 20 years now, since they opened.
Yeah.
I visit there twice a year. Every summer I do a residency, and over Thanksgiving I do performances and workshops. And I had the great pleasure of just last year doing a book of taking the Peanuts characters and turning them into mazes. And that's called Amazing Peanuts. And that was a lifelong dream.
That's
to
great.
be able to work on those Peanuts characters. I remember as a little kid writing to Schultz and saying, hey, listen, if you ever think about retiring, I'm ready to go. I wasn't, but as a 12-year-old kid, I thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that is really a chance to come and really, again, just like the Mr. Rogers thing, just that full circle.
Right? Oh, I have to ask, do you have a favorite Peanuts character?
Oh, yeah, it's Snoopy.
Oh, nice.
It's Snoopy. I mean, my philosophy is that Charlie Brown is who we all are.
Yeah.
Much like Charlie the Tuna. Charlies are underappreciated, don't feel accepted.
Excellent connection.
They're really looking for, finding their place in the world and facing constant rejection.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown's who we all are. That's
Yeah.
what we all feel like. But Snoopy, that's who we all want to be. Dancing through life, just waiting for dinner time and nap time and just enjoying every
Not
moment.
a care in the world, right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, listen, Joe Wos, can you let people know where they can find you on Instagram and other channels like that?
Yeah, absolutely. On Instagram, you can find me at WosToons, WOSTOONS. The TV show, cartoonacademy.org, or in the PBS app, search for Cartoon Academy. On TikTok, Quick Draw Tunes, QUIK, Draw Tunes, TOONS. And on YouTube, How to Tune, and Joe Wos. And I got lots of drawing lessons in all those places.
Awesome. Well, Joe Wos, I finally pronounced your last name right. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, but it's funny because I have 6 letters in my entire name, and it is always mispronounced, and I just go with it because I realize I'm actually not pronouncing it right either. I was corrected by someone from Poland who got very angry with me about how I pronounce it, and I said, it's Vosh. And I said, well, then everybody's saying it wrong all across, so I never worry about it.
Well, there note for anyone listening to this going to conventions to meet Joe. Now you know he pronounces it. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Okay.